Who can still recall last Sunday's message title in English? Yeah? The one who stands firm to the end will be what? Event? The one who stands firm to the end will be saved. Okay. When you listen to this title, right? The one who stands firm will be saved. But then the Lord says, the one who stands firm to the end. So actually, what does it suggest to you? Actually, today I realized that Lord all this while has been always giving us this element of we are in a process. The one who stands firm to the end, right? Lord actually is telling us we are in a process whereby you have to persevere to the end. Okay. Why did Lord say stands firm and don't full stop there? But He said who stands firm to the end will be saved. I know we are all on this topic about perseverance, and in a way, and actually in many ways, I'm thankful that Pastor had this message because today, as I was talking to my friends, my colleague, we are also on this. My colleague was just telling me that boss wants us to show these outcomes, like do this project must be able to show that it has this cost savings in 1 month's time. It can do this in 1 month's time. Can do that in 1 month's time. Then it occurred to me that actually this is the tempo of our world. We want to have immediate outcomes. We really want to see quick results. Like today we launch something. We want to see what is the progress next month. Today I give a drug. I want to see how much cost savings I'm doing. Today I give a drug. I want to see tomorrow how it's doing to my patient. But then I realized that then I told my Christian colleague, I say, hey brother, even though right, it doesn't, even though the outcome may not be obvious the next month, but then can you ask yourself, but we have to ask ourselves, what is the intent, what is the purpose behind us doing this thing? So actually we have this project on it's called cut the pillar. Okay, I'm not promoting, but it means cut the pills. So basically what I like to do is, if I have a patient come to me, I will try to cut down the number of pills that he's taking, because if I were to put myself in his shoes, I will also not want to take a lot of pills in one day. So there are a lot of things we think that can actually be done away, so just that nobody reconcile it for the patient. So but it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of interviewing, it takes a lot of menial tasks, menial times, so it may not be able to show the immediate results. So I asked my friend, actually, if you ask yourself, if the purpose of us initiating this thing is a good one, why are we afraid that the outcome is not obvious immediately? If it is the right thing to do, the right thing will prove itself to be right eventually. So I say, actually, I think this is, in another way, perseverance is all about. Perseverance it entails a journey. It also entails you sacrificing and not looking at the immediate telltale signs that come to you. It requires you to go back to the original intent of how it happens, why it happens, knowing that the good of God will prevail to the end. So then I realized that so actually I realized that, like what my sister shared yesterday during AYF, this message actually bring me into a different aspect of what I think perseverance is. Like what Huizhen said, my family and I believe a lot of us, we grew up in this moral construct that we must persevere. We must persevere, don't give up. and then um, the it will, whatever you have persevered towards will come. So I was taught since young by my dad that if you persevere, the one that you really hope to attain will be attainable. Okay, certain things like that. But what I want to say is the foundation of our perseverance all this while, right, is on what? In the past, we may be persevering because we want to maybe get good grades, we want to get into a good company, maybe we persevere in loving this person, thinking that he will love me back, or we persevere so that we will be accepted, or we persevere because I want to, because I know that if I talking a bit, maybe I will get the good outcomes that I want. But actually, God tells us that the perseverance itself, the foundation of perseverance, is from God's grace. Okay, it's God's grace that enable us to persevere. So, in another word, right, God calls us today not to look at the outcome, but just look at His grace. Look at the initiating power of love in all things, because it is grace that initiates in us this will to persevere, to achieve the good purpose. He is the one who put the good will in us, the good vision in us. So um, I'm not sure how you think about this perseverance, but I realize that if we do not know what is the will of God, we do not know how weak our humanity is, how much ego we have, how much pride we have, how much desire we have, how much influence we have received from the world, and how powerful is Satan's lie, we will never know and we will never find the reason and the momentum to persevere in today's time. So, um, so um, today, right, I'm gonna go very quickly because you all have heard a lot of times. Um, we are asked. God says the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. Then it means that the one who perseveres will be saved. And why do we need to persevere? What is the value? What is what's so treasurable about this perseverance that will, what benefits will it reap? Have you ever asked? Is it if you persevere, then your family will be safe? Is it you persevere, then maybe the sheep that you minister to will one day listen to you? Is it this that God is this what God meant? I'm not saying this will not happen, but when Lord asks us to persevere, His focus is always not bringing you to the outcome, but bringing you to the now. But He give you a direction, the direction of this perseverance, because the Lord says the one who stands firm to the end will be saved. And what is this will be saved? Okay, so today, right, I want us to read a few scriptures. Can we all turn to this book of Hebrews, chapter 12, verse 1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. And let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Okay, um, actually, this is one of the first verses that Pastor read to us last week. So I keep reading this again. So let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. So the sin that easily entangles, a lot of times it also tells us that actually a lot of we all have a lot of entanglements in us. Like we have a lot of disbelief, we have a lot of our unwillingness to die, we have our inclinations. There are a lot of times what we wish is not the same as what God asks us or wants us to do. This one we know very well. Okay, but then Lord still tell us, because you see, since you see in the front they tell you about the people of faith like Abraham, like David, all those people, but because we have such weaknesses, therefore he encourages us to throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles. Why? Because in this race that is marked out before us, like Jesus, we need to really, like, for example, why would Jesus be the pioneer perfecter of our faith? Because why? Because of the joy set before him. For example, have you ever asked, what is this joy that is set before Jesus that make him and that enable him to endure the humiliation of the cross, the separation of God in the eternal moment, and not only so, to be put down to the lowest of all human beings. I maybe number one, we think that okay, because he's the son of God, maybe he knows that victory is his. But we also know that a lot of times the Bible always tells us, hey, Huizhen, no matter what you face, you need to understand you are more than the conquerors. In those who are believing in God, they will be saved eternally. But why is it that despite knowing so, we a lot of times still cannot see the value of persevering in this trial that we are going through? Do you understand what I mean? Like, we know that, like, for example, Jesus, he know for the joy set before him, he can endure this cross. But why is it that we know that we will surely go to heaven? We know that Lord will surely not turn his back against us. We know that whoever we love, God also love. But despite knowing so much, why is it that in this journey that we are in, we just cannot find strength to rest on his promise? Have you ever wondered that? Like, we get easily entangled. Entangled means we easily being attacked by our own inclinations, by our own disbelief. We easily being robbed away our assurance that our tomorrow will be good. I was also wondering, in the cross that God asks us to carry, for example, is it your family cross, or the cross of relationships, the cross of shepherding, and the cross of not being understood, the cross of your workplace? Why is it that a lot of times we easily want to forget this cross? Because it gets too mafan, it gets too troublesome to carry this cross. I realize that, not sure about you, but when I read back to this scripture, right, I was just thinking, in this verse 2, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. The joy that set before him is actually what? Is actually Jesus. He knows the reason why is he undergoing this thing. He knows the reason for his pain. In another word, for the cross that you are carrying today, whether it's the cross of relationship, whether it's the cross of shepherding, or the cross of loving your family members, or the cross of embracing your brethren, right? Whether you can carry this cross beautifully and joyfully lies on you seeing the joy that's laying in front of you. Meaning, do you find value in walking this road? Do you find value in persevering this road that you are being given? So in another word, do we know what is the value? Why do we persevere? Why do we need to persevere to begin with? Huizhen, do you know why Lord asks us to persevere? No idea. Vicky?
Why he has it?
Yeah.
So that we can experience him deeper.
Convicted?
Yes.
Event? Why God asks you to persevere? Okay. Actually, perseverance is not intrinsic in us. We don't bond with it in a way, as in, it's not that we don't bond with it. In another word, we won't pursue this virtue ourselves if we are not being put to pursue it. In another word, we in our human being way, right, we are easily contented. We 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 are easily uh, we are easily turning spiritually lazy. If you realize, easily if we see something, we're happy, but we may not dwell into it until it hits us, it discomforts us, it pains us. Like for example, if my family members right on the day 2 of my prayer become a Christians, it will not discomfort me as much. It will not displease me as much. It will not make me struggle as much and knowing why they reject, why they don't understand. Why is it that they are so hardened? Why is it that they cannot accept uh, my God as the only God that I can rest my whole life to? But um, but so there's a lot of questions that I start to ask over the years. But this is something that I won't ask right on the first day. Like for example, um, in another word, right, what I want to say is God asks us to persevere is because it's only through perseverance that we can be more and more Christ-like in our living. What is to be more and more Christ-like? We always say, want to be more like Jesus. But how do you be more like Jesus? Would you right on the first day want to be more like Jesus? If you don't see how unmatching you are with the identity as child of God, would you want to pursue to be more Christ-like today? So in another word, right, the reason why God asks us to persevere is because He wants us to be more and more Christ-like. And it's only through perseverance that the Christ-like temperaments will grow in us. And what is the Christ-like temperaments? It is love, faith, power, and another one is hope. Okay. Um, actually, all these things are intertwined. But I think Pastor also give us a lot of examples. So I'll briefly go through. A lot of times, right? For example, you just ask yourself these questions. If today your works, the works like maybe you're serving, like maybe today if Mickey sit here and everybody listen to you sharing your message, you feel very encouraged. You feel like, oh, you're called to do something by Lord and Lord fulfill. But if today the people sitting in front of you are totally disinterested to you, they are totally don't care about you. I think when you are leading EYF forum, sometimes they also are not interested in what you want to say. They are more interested in what they want to say. Sometimes you are preparing a full things that you want to tell certain brethren, but he is not totally interested in what you want to tell him. But brother, he is interested in what you can help him, what you can do to him, how you can please him, how you can shelter him. So under this situation, do you think that you will still continue to want to approach this brother again and again? I know that now we more and more can do this, but in the past we will never be able to do this. For example, if today your if you look at your nature today, sometimes we have this sianness attitude. We already don't feel like saying hello to people. We just acknowledging. Sometimes you step into the house, you see your sister or your brother. Do you always say hi? But sometimes when your mood get over you, when you are in low mood or you are in low spirit, sometimes you just let it take over you. You just look at that person and you just turn away. Sometimes we don't even have this sustaining attitude to overcome our own emotions. But this is what perseverance is about. Perseverance is about your inner strength that is unstoppable and unsustainable. And without this perseverance, I realize that we truly and will never touch other people. For example, right? for example, right, actually last week pastor talks about the mother experience. So actually, I'm not sure about you. You are not a mother yet, but so I was thinking about my own mother. I remember last time when I was schooling, right, my mother has 5 kids. Every kids, right, during the exam time, um, she will prepare test questions. So what she does is she used my sister test questions in the past, and then she writes herself again, because at time don't have computer. She writes again with the fill in the blanks, and then she write one copy for my sister, and then one copy for my brother, and then she do it 5 times every time during the exam. So if I have 10 subjects, he will do 10 subjects questions paper, and then he will mark for me, my brother, and my sisters. So last time I never understand why why my mother would do it. I only feel the frustration of being asked to do the test questions. And then but then every time when I see her test paper, right, because it's like a white paper, it's like a biscuit paper, and then you just write, and then you see so much uh, hard sweat in this. Then I realized that actually, mm, and then I realized that if I will be led into doing it, even though no matter how how dislike I am towards these test papers, because I have seen her writing from my primary 1 to primary 6, even though every time I scold her, Ma, I don't want to do anymore, you don't try to treat yourself, I don't want to get a good grade. So every time when I give her this kind of cold response, or I even sometimes when I'm young and my brothers are young, we are very temperamental. We'll scold our mom also. We will be very rude to her. So even though so, I still see my mom stay up till midnight to continue to write the test papers and then prepare already, click together, and then let me and my brothers do. Then from primary 1 to primary 6. And then when I reach primary 6, and it is only when I reach primary 6 that when I see the test paper, I will feel I need to do it. Actually, what I'm trying to tell you is that um, I feel that my mom is a very perseverant lady, because right, if let's say you you see, like for example your child and for example this sister and brother, if they keep rejecting your goodwill, right, sometimes it is not easy for us to continue doing the same thing again and again. You try asking yourself, you and your siblings love, a lot of times when your siblings turn a cold shoulders to you, you straight away want to give her a slap. But then you realize that the day you truly touch her or touch him is you do the same thing again and again, regardless of how she appears to you, how she responds to you, just because you know that that is the right thing to do, and that is the calling that God has given you. So, and it is only that one day it will convict that person. Mm, mm. I'm not sure whether I talk about my mother, but actually the strongest character that I want to talk about is Jesus. Why will why will we be attracted to follow Jesus? Jesus also not someone very good looking. He is not like really the one that people glorify so greatly when he's here on earth. He is also born humbly, and he is also being persecuted lots, and he is also not exactly good looking, and he doesn't earn a lot, and sometimes he also have to endure the humiliation of other people even before he is being nailed on the cross. And even though so, there's this inner strength that's in him, that he knows that it is Father who called him to do this. So he submit to the Father. And what I want to say is, why are we being bounded by this gospel? It's not because of it's not of why are we so bounded by this gospel? It's not because of the good things that this gospel can give us on the outside, but the inner strength, the love, the power, and the hope that God gives us through this gospel, through the work that Jesus has done on the cross. Because seeing how Jesus endured the humiliation, the being singled away, and yet finding the continuous strength to submit again and again, make us feel that why a man can do this for a person that he absolutely does not. No, who will do this to a person who absolutely do not appreciate to begin with? But yet he do it nonetheless when we still disregard him as God. You understand what I mean? So so what I want to say is, any love and any faith or any hope, if without this testing of time process and persevering through this process, actually has no captivating power at all on any human being. Even me and my mom, it takes me from primary 1 to primary 6 to being led into automatically do the set of test papers. Not to say Jesus has to go through the whole 3.5 years of sharing the gospel and leading the disciples and being abandoned by these disciples, still going back to find Peter who disowned him 3 times and still carry the cross all the way up. This process again and again just because he wants to submit to God. Only then we are being awakened. How can this man be so stubbornly submissive to law, yet so unappreciated by the world? But when the faith, I'm not sure how it comes to you, but when I see that, I actually feel that it shakes people. It's this kind of persevering love that even though people disregard, even though people don't accept, yet he continued to do because he's called to do this. This itself can shake people. This itself will send adrenaline rush to the heart. Yeah. So I can't really put into words this cross effect that that pastor tried to say, but I can only say that the pain of perseverance amidst the genuine love of God for all the people. So because of that, we realize that how this silken fetter comes about. Okay, and the second thing is why God asks us to persevere is, number one, so that because of that we will be convicted, we will be touched, and we will be bounded by this gospel. And because we are bounded by this gospel, we will want to be more and more Christ-like. And second thing, without this perseverance, we will not be mature and complete. In if you look at the book of James, and this is also one of the verses that Pastor quoted us, chapter 1 verse 2 to 4. Consider it pure joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. And let perseverance finish its work, so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. Without the test, what it means by testing of your faith produces perseverance. It means that with this test of your faith, it gives birth to perseverance. A lot of times, right, before this testing of faith that involves times and process, we wouldn't realize that there are so many inadequacies in our life. What inadequacies that we are talking about? Our faith is very inadequate, our love is very inadequate, our hope is very inadequate. How do you know that you are lacking if you are not being tested? How do you know that you truly love this woman if your love is not being tested, it's not being tempted, it's not being challenged? How do I know that this is true? This is the truth if I'm not being tested. So for example, a lot of times, right, our faith we thought is a surge of courage, a surge of feelings. Like today, if you sleep well, you feel that you can concentrate and pray in the morning. You feel that you have more faith in God that day. But then the next day, you realize that you cannot sleep well, and then you feel so frustrated when you wake up in the morning, and then because of that you didn't listen to EE. I feel that you have low faith that day. I'm not sure whether you feel that or not, but a lot of times we feel that, oh, today we are very low in energy, spiritual power. Today we sure very susceptible to the spiritual attack of the Satan. I'm not saying it's not true, but what does this perseverance journey that God gave us tell us? If you don't allow your faith to be tested, you will always put your faith on your feelings. The day you feel good, you feel that you are pleasing God, you are more closer to God's heart. The day you feel bad or you have been weak, you have succumbed to certain desires or temptations that you know that is not desirable by God, you feel that you are not close to God anymore. So what I want to say is, if your faith is not being tested, you will always feel that your faith is a sense of feeling. It will not be rooted. It will not be what God says you are. It will not be by the word of God. Therefore, how did God produces this faith in us? Miriam, how did God test our faith? How did God test our faith so that it can produce perseverance in us? Yeah, He gives us sufferings and trials. Actually, I really hope that we all can confirm that God gives us sufferings and trials for a very genuine good purpose of refining our faith. Just because for the pure fact that we are very emotional beings. You realize that people at our age, right, we feel happy easily. We also feel sad very easily by just the words of other people. And because one day, if the people closest to you don't acknowledge you, sometimes you feel that maybe you are not as blessed by God as anymore. But actually, God gives us trials so that we are taken away by our sensibility, by our naked eyes, by what our naked eyes can see. But rather, He put us to limitations so that we can only be word reliant. We can only rely on the word of God. What God says you are. You are my child. Because you are my child, therefore, today where you are is where my blessings will be. The people you meet does not come to you anyhow, but they are here because, number one, this is a blessed meeting, is to mold you, is to provide a dose of gospelization to that person, and many, many more. So sometimes our eyes will not turn covenanted if Lord doesn't give us these trials and sufferings. Our covenanted eyes don't come overnight, brothers and sisters. You all know that. We are not driven by this remnants message right from the beginning. But we are being more convicted that we need to live like a covenanted remnant more and more as time goes by. Through sufferings, through trials, through testing of our limits. Okay? And second, if God does not ask us to persevere, we will not know that our love needs maturation. What does it mean? A lot of times, right, our love is also very easily led by our feelings. If there's no process that entails endurance, separations, discomfort, sacrificing, how will you know that your love is actually a genuine love? Okay, very easily. For example, like what pastor say, and it's true. In my hospital, I see sometimes the words that we always use is this person loved? Meaning, is this person loved? Got people visit, got people take care, got people want to fetch you back or not? Then I realized that initially, suddenly, on the first day, usually I see there's a crowd. On the 7th day, I realized only one or two. And on the 14th day, I realized that only one. And then on the 28th day, I realized it's only the maid. Okay, what I want to say is, a lot of times, right, love also requires maturation and testing. And for example, how do you know that you are truly someone who will love your wife or your husband or your partner genuinely? Is when that person shows all his weakness and poverty and illnesses to you, you still can embrace him or her, knowing that it is not her weakness that make her fall. It is you who cannot cover her weakness and complement her weakness that make her fall. It is when you see that it is not her as an isolated identity, but it's you two complementing each other, and therefore you feel that and you realize the need to cover her, to complement her, to protect her. If you don't have this process of endurance testing, you will never know that your love cannot stay in a honeymoon zone. You know, um, why does a marriage, before it goes into a marriage in Christ, a lot of times it requires a courtship? Because it's through this courtship we realize more about each other. You see more about each other's weaknesses, and in these weaknesses, Lord also give you message about each weaknesses. There's this thing about this human being that is still inadequate, that it can only be covered by your love. And I truly agree that love is the only thing that can transform a person. A person is not transformed by you asking him to do what is correct, but a person is being transformed by you influencing him with your love. Okay, um, this is not only true for BGR or, just marital love. It is also true for kinship. Okay, I give you an example between me and my sister. Mm, I realized that mm, I realized that one day when I look to Lord to serve my sister and brother, I realized that Lord pleases. Lord give me joy in my heart. I told you some time back about hanging clothes, and they always like to hang like differently and make taking down very hard. Yesterday I took down the clothes. It's my sister hang one. I realized it's a one straight row. And then I realized that the only difference is I started off nagging. After that, I didn't nag. I started doing it this way to show that I won't nag anymore. It's okay if, let's say, you all continue to do that. I just take it lor. It's okay. I just take down and take it more slowly. But then I realized that I feel the love of my sister more evidently when we both are in the words and she's also equipped with the words, and she will also, and Lord also give her the love to love me by what? By not only hanging things the way I like it to be. I can say that it is a very selfish thought of myself that I want it to be like that. But I realize that even though it is my selfish thought, God accede to my selfish thought, not because he he thinks that I can be selfish, but because he shows me my sister is convicted by my gentleness. The love that God gives us is a gentleness love, a love of strength and gentleness. Strength is in weaknesses you cover, you support, but in weaknesses you also gently cover each other. I do not know how to tell you, but as much as my sister learns a lot through sibling love, gentleness and strength is something that God um, inspired me a lot in this kinship. Just like if you have a very different brother or sibling in your family, sometimes it doesn't entails you to use strength, use certain strong forces, strong enforcement. Sometimes it requires you to use a gentleness. And I realize this is called the maturation of love. Like a sister also tells me that um, sometimes it's very hard to maintain a relationship um, because in the past maybe can see each other or maybe can be with each other more, but as they grow up, God leads them different way, and it's very hard to see each other as often. And sometimes God give them different purpose also in shepherding, in ministry, and sometimes it requires certain enduring power because they can't see each other anymore. The support can be less. But in this case, right, I realized that if God allow these things to go through, and you know that God do everything out of His perfect will, it just means that your love also needs maturation. And Lord thinks that you deserve and you're worthy of this process because behind this process, there's greater blessings awaiting you. There's people who also will have to go through this not easy courtship, but still enduring this courtship, and you will have a message for them. And yeah, um, so hope. So without perseverance, we will never have this renewal of hope. We always say that if you do not know how broken this era is, how will you hope for the second coming of the Lord? In another word, if you do not know how much the world hates you, you will never wish Jesus come quickly and you can be restored with him forever. Um, my consultant, right? This week is a religious week for me. It started off my consultant asking me, do you believe first or do you see to believe? Do you believe to see or do you see to believe? So in the morning when we are rounding, this is what my doctor asked me. Then I tell him, I believe to see, because when you believe in, you must believe in something. When you believe in the truth, you will want to confirm what you believe, and when you want to confirm what you believe in, then only you will see. If you don't want to confirm what you believe in, then you will never see. So you cannot see and believe. You need to believe and then you will see, because only when you believe you will want to confirm, and then thus Lord will allow you to see. But um, but then this consultant also keeps throwing me questions. He say, so today we are talking about 7 seals, 7 trumpets, 7 bowls during the rounds, the morning walk rounds. So I was having a hard time because he challenged me with, why y'all accept homosexuality and the Big Bang Theory. So actually yesterday during the Facebook, I saw some posts about the Pope accepting homosexuality and Big Bang Theory. So I do not. So I look at him. I know that to Gentiles, it is very hard for them to understand Catholics and Christianity difference. To them, it's the same. To them, it's called Christians. And what's more, when there's homosexual, why do you all accept homosexuality? It tells me that he himself also knows it's not correct. But why we, who keep proclaiming the truth, will accept this untruth? Okay, so and then he continued to persecute. He said, so you all shouldn't go around telling people that their God are false, because you are in no position to tell people that their gods are the false god and your God is the only God, because you don't even understand what is going on in their own belief. And then he started telling me, Muslim, there is no God in Muslim. Their Allah is not a God. So then he kept talking and talking. So at that moment I realized that something is beyond our words. But I realized he keeps coming back to me all these 3 years about faith. So I realized that in this world that we are living in, whatever truths that we proclaim, the world, also known as the Satan, will continue to hate us, and they will even persecute us even more. And in this situation, you either stop proclaiming your God, you started to tone down and shut up, and or you compromise. Like, okay, actually your God is also the God. My God is also the God. Then I am like coexisting. But the gospel that we are being compelled to preach is the only God. So, but it will mean that you are running against the current of the world. So in these situations like that, you realize that you are really in the trumpets era. The trumpets is really blowing and blowing and blowing. You can only know the world will continue to persecute you, and only then you realize that it doesn't matter whether people acknowledge you or not, but you just need to continue to live your life as what Lord calls you to do, and then you just look upon the day He really welcome you back to His kingdom. And I also want to say, a lot of times it's not us who change the heart of man. A lot of times it's God who changes the heart of man. but it changes the heart of man through our living, through our perseverance. So if you do not know what to do, I feel that, and I hope God affirm us that perseverance is what we ought to do in this journey, in this struggle that we are facing, whether it's towards a brother, a sister, a sibling, or towards a certain workplace or certain shepherding. Okay, and only with perseverance we will be more and more righteous in calling out to Lord. A lot of times, right, we hear the message, we feel that, hey, this is the message we need to listen, but we receive an enlightenment, but it doesn't translate into your inner strength. You can hear a lot of message and receive enlightenment, just like you can read a lot of blogs about John Piper, but it may just be your enlightenment if whatever he internalized also being internalized into you to become your inner strength. Like, but so because of that, God designs a very unique journey for each and every one of us. And which is why I realized that no wonder there's this book called Pilgrim's Progress, because it's truly a journey. And in this journey, everyone starts out with a lot of entanglement, but God always leads us with His truth. And with His truth, He designs a pilgrim's journey for each and every one of you. And therefore, only then, with these trials and sufferings, He refines your lives, He refines your motive, and He refines your love. And we always thought that in this journey, the most torturous time and moment is how long this journey is going to be, how long will it end, and how much more you have to suffer. But um, but I'm very, very convicted when Pastor actually say, actually in this journey of perseverance, it is not the most torturous part is not the length of the journey or the time that you have to wait and struggle, but it's the battle between you and yourself. It's how much more entanglement you want to hold on to, how much more insinuations you want to give yourself in, how much lies of the Satan you are still unwilling to reject and to see through. And um, I realized that I can say that every one of us is very different, and we cannot say that we can have a breakthrough in this area, therefore that sister or brother so and so must also receive breakthrough in this area and cannot be weak. A lot of times God allows this progress to be ongoing for a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons is if for example, right, so I had an encounter. Let me share with you this encounter. So I had an encounter. I thought that this is God's will to be like that. So probably I will shepherd people in certain way also. Like it could be maybe Lena in the past. It could be a lot of brethren along the way. I will say, because you receive so much enlightenment during the message, you want to give this thing that you receive to the brethren. You will say like that, but that person will just reject it because it doesn't in line with his or her will. And not only that, in the entire journey, when you keep continuing going to him or her again, you realize that that person still struggling and retaliate and resist you. And then at that moment, I asked Lord, is it not your will that you want this sister or brother to receive your very, very complete truth? Is yes what? God indeed wants us to give to internalize this complete gospel in them. But if this is your complete gospel, why is this brother or sister cannot accept your will, cannot accept your word? Then in the initial moment, I thought is maybe I am not accurate in what I say. So the next moment, I continue to give the same message again. But then I realized that that person will become even more resistant to it. And not only that, started not coming eventually. Then I realized that why is it so hard for her? Why this brother can accept Christ and then the complete truth so easily, that brother cannot? Like for example, like you realize that people in our church and grow up for our church, we accept this Emmanuel message pretty quickly. When it's being said on the altar, we are 80 to 90% very receptive and know that this is what we need. But little did we realize that when we know, because and we want this thing to be given to our loved ones, so we bring someone to church. But then you realize that someone will not receive the 80-90% like you do. They will be struggling to listen, and they may not accept totally, and they will query and query. And then and with time, you realize that person, how come so many times already, still cannot totally internalize that message as much as you do, or not even hunger for that message. And then um, through these encounters, God made me realize one thing. God gives us a message that is very complete, but Lord also give us this message to really digest and to make it relevant to the people in this world. And a lot of times, how do we make things relevant to people in this world when we don't even sympathize their weaknesses, their grounds, and the background that they are from? Like, for example, if people do not come from a church that is similar to us, how will they know that brethren living is like that? They are being led maybe 20, 30 odd years with this form of brethren living. How can you expect them to change overnight just because they come to our church these few times? For example, we are so grown to this homegrown message. How would you expect someone to sit through the message for 1.5 hours to listen to a message when people in other churches only sit through the message for half an hour? So the attention, the lifespan, and the effort required is so different, and we will not understand this right from the beginning. But God gives us this element of time to test and approve again whether the gospel that we receive, can we also pray and make it relevant to the one that we want to minister to, by sympathizing their weaknesses, by truly understanding where is the grounds they come from. They walk a different path from us. They don't grow up in the way we grow, so there ought to be some difference. And while gospel is the complete answer to them, but the way they receive it, it requires our prayers. It requires us to fine-tune things for them. And I realized that in this, right, only through this we will really call out to Lord. That Lord, if you truly love this brother or sister, how would you minister to this brother and sister? How would you reach out to this brother and sister? Like, for example, if I want to bring my brother to church, I realize that the more I share gospel, the more he doesn't want to come to church. The more you tell me, you continue to share on the message and being uploaded and whatever lah. Don't preach what you preach in the church back to home to me. It doesn't work for me. So my brother would tell me this kind of thing. Then initially I would think, okay, I will ask Lord, is this not your will to have my family have full gospelization? Actually, it's not one. But then I realized that it could be because, if I examine myself, it could be because my brother really don't feel love from me. So we ought to examine ourselves again and again if we are truly in this long process that God wants us to be in. Okay, and yeah. So if we are not being brought to the limitations of our flesh, we won't even bother to call out Lord to refine our love, to refine ourselves at all. We won't even be probed to examine ourselves. We always will bring a sense of judgment into other people. Like, I will always think my brother is lacking, my brother needs this, my brother needs gospel. But I will not be probed to examine myself. Have I shown enough love for him at home? Have I shown enough love for him in every aspect? So the starting of gospel is always self-gospelization. And the starting of gospelization and evangelism is always the testing of our faith through perseverance, so that we will have a love that can convict others. Not only convict ourselves, but to convict others. Yeah. And lastly, like, Like for example, right? So lately, I actually struggle a lot whenever I go home during EYF with Yao An and Lele and Mei Mei they all, because they're kids and sometimes the way they talk can be very different one. And I always feel so comfortable when I go home with John, because he is speaking in a wavelength that we can understand. We all like to mingle with people speaking in a wavelength that we understand and can understand us. But I realized that when Yang talked to me about, wow, exam finished already, I can bomb school, I can go to Patrick's house and then slack there for the rest of my life, like that kind of thing, then I find it very hard to tell him, actually, you're still a student and God put you in a school, and you have a lot of friends to mingle with. There are a lot of people whom you can share gospel with. Like, this is very theoretical, and I know that me at his age, I also won't think about this kind of thing, correct or not? So if, for example, you tell William, life is short, put your eyes on God, the world is coming soon. Like we talk about revelations, we give them this world values, but you ask William, will he truly acknowledge it? Will he truly acknowledge that life is short and therefore today he need to live in the will of God? Actually, it will not. But because of that, right? You also need to accept that because it is so hard for them to understand. Therefore, God will also design a journey for him. God will design a journey that allows him to, that maybe is embodied with certain trials, experience, and even a period of time, so that he can crystallize what he has listened in his Sunday school in the past, so that he can crystallize more and more and relate to what happened in his daily life, so that he will be probed to think further, so that he will be realizing that, hey, is this world truly coming to an end? Is all these things truly worthless? Is all these actions that I'm doing truly meaningless or meaningful? So the precondition is, actually I'm truly glad for William still, because the precondition before he goes through all these things is he is still growing in the culture of Christ. He still have the word of Lord, and it's a matter of time whether the word of the Lord allows him to struggle when he faced with challenges, real challenges of his life. So in him, right, you do not need to, a lot of times you do not need to tell him to to do this, to do that. You just pray that one day he realizes he needs God more than anything else in this world. He need to produce how to develop this heart of needing God if he doesn't have this path of testing and time in front of him, this journey of trials, friendship, struggles. If he doesn't pass through this, if he doesn't pass through these trials, he will never understand or appreciate what Sunday school has been teaching him about. The sense of word will never be made real to him. So what I can say is we need to believe that God is the one who works in him, and we definitely have the role to guide him, but we cannot enforce him at this age already. Yeah. Okay. So lastly, right? Yesterday, Pastor also said, so how do we develop perseverance? I'm not sure how you see it. Like trials and sufferings, you all know. Paradoxical mindset, you all know. The submissive heart, the if not faith, you know. A lot of things. But what I want to share with you is actually when Pastor say, how do you develop perseverance? It's through trial and suffering. And what okay, actually to me, right, it is a checklist. Is this happening in my life? Are you undergoing certain trials and sufferings? Are you always going into a situation whereby your flesh really don't want to do it, but then the word inside you, the word that you have always hear, the love and righteousness and the perfect will of Lord, just attract you into submitting to him, even though it is very uncomfortable to your flesh. For example, For example, like Mirel, you didn't wanted to share because you know that it's gonna be hard, but at the same time you cannot not share because you know that this is God's will. You know that God doesn't want you to hit the insinuation, the lies that's coming to you. Because of that, there's this paradoxical mindset inside you. What I want to tell you is that when pastor tell you how to develop perseverance, you at the same time need to confirm, is this happening in your life? Are you going through these phenomenons in your life? If you are, you ought really need to be happy because God truly cares for you. He never leave you aside to struggle, but He is bringing you into persevering journey again and again so that one day your faith will be made complete and mature. So how to produce perseverance to me is actually a checklist of what God is doing in our lives now. Yes, we all are undergoing certain trials and sufferings, but actually more real than these trials and sufferings is not the uncomfortable things, is is the is the enemy behind these trials and sufferings. So, for example, mm, is it leading a cell group very difficult to you? What is the most difficult in this thing is the insinuations that you receive, the hints that you receive. What if what you say, everybody don't even accept it at all, can't even land onto their hearts at all? What if whatever I say is misleading? What if what I say is not compatible to the word of God? What if there are many things that can come to your mind? What if what I say is not what I'm convicted of? But these kind of things can truly come to you. But I realized that this is truly the enemy hints because the first thing that these things do to you is it breaks down your faith. It breaks down your trust in the Lord, who is the one who is doing the work to the end. So, yes, if you're undergoing a trials and sufferings, but more important than just the works, you need to know the enemy behind this. The enemy behind this is the hints, insinuations from Satan. A lot of times when we are suffering, we always thought that it's this person who did unjust to us. It is this brother who don't understand me. Or you will think that is it because I have not prayed enough? If you face certain things, if today you're being hit by a lot of people upside down, left, right, center, perhaps I'll ask myself, is it because today I start off in the morning not praying and then I rush to work, and when I rush to work the first thing I do is not to settle down and quiet and pray, but to quickly do my work. And then I will have a lot of these kind of things coming to me. And I realize that it is not the situation that breaks me down, it's the thoughts that break me down. Just like for my patients, it's not the death that breaks them down, it's the thoughts about the death that breaks them down. Okay, so when you feel this, when you succumb to all these lies, when you succumb to all these insinuations, you will really lose the heart to persevere. What it means by losing the heart to persevere, meaning you lose the heart to rest on the covenant of God. Rather, you will let yourself to lead into the moments, the situations, and the words of people. And then second thing, how do you know that? So Lord will truly give us trials and sufferings so that we know what is Satan doing at the background. And we know that it is the Satan that is making us feeling so much more tormented than we truly are. And second thing, in trials that you are undergoing, you really need to go through this paradoxical mindset. And if you are indeed going through a paradoxical mindset, like you don't want, but because of the bounding love of God, you have to. It's not that you like to do this, it's not that you like to sacrifice. You don't want to if you have a choice. But if it's not for Lord's instruction, you will not walk this path. If you truly have this paradoxical mindset, you truly need to amen yourself because Lord is truly developing perseverance in you. And the third thing is the if not faith. What is the if not faith? It means that if God didn't save me out of this problem, I will still abide. Do you understand what I mean? If God doesn't bring me out of this problem, I will still follow Him. For example, a lot of times, a lot of times our faith comes from us praying to Lord, and we hope that He deliver us out of this difficult moment. For example, delivering us out of this illness. Like if let's say you have a prolonged illness, discomfort, sometimes you really wish God takes it away. But or sometimes certain people just bear grudges against you. You also wish that God takes it away because you just don't enjoy this feeling. But the if not faith is what? Is even though God doesn't take these grudges away, you will still do what Lord asks you to do. That means you love when you need to love. You wait when you need to wait. You wait when you need to wait. You serve when you need to serve. Serving doesn't mean you serve in the church. Serving just means you serve that sister, that brother of yours at home, that sister of yours at home, that colleague of yours at workplace. Even though God doesn't bring you out of this discomfort, because your peace rests on the submission from God, not from the deliverance or the resolution of the problems. So that is how perseverance comes from. Perseverance must come from the grace of Lord, from His truth. Okay, it's not from the phenomenal things. It's not from the situational change. Okay, and number 4, how do you know that perseverance is developing in you? Is sometimes when we try to persevere, we will face with certain untruths. What kind of untruths we'll face? Like we'll face with certain things that take us away from going through this hardships with Lord. Like for example, I give you an example. If you're in singlehood, okay, maybe only here I'm the only one, maybe Huizhen in that, okay. Some or maybe definitely later or Huizhen. Sometimes right, when we try to persevere, okay, Lord, we know that you will give us a spouse if you didn't take away this will from us. But in this journey of perseverance, right, sometimes certain things will fly to you. For example, people will say, hey, Huizhen, why don't you go to this church? Has a Bible study fellowship. And in this Bible study fellowship, it's for singles only. So you're actually increasing your likelihood of getting hit. Okay, a lot of things. I'm not saying you cannot do that, but I also ask myself, I cannot do that, man, Lord. It's not like it's a bad thing, what? It's also a blessed union, blessed meeting. But then Lord also asked me, actually, Huizhen, you have time or not? At this situation of yours, the conditions of yours just don't require you to do this because you are filled from Monday to Sunday already. What other time you have for this additional sidekicks that you need? Okay, and but the thing is, sometimes you face with this thing, then people will tell you, Huizhen, you don't worry. If you truly love the Lord will bless you. The Lord will not blame you even though you skip 1 or 2 meetings of your own church to attend this mega church Bible study fellowship. So I must truly thankful that people care for me. But I also want to tell you that this is just one instance. Along the way, there will be this kind of thing that rationalize with the truth you know by instilling some humanism in it. Okay, like the coexisting, there's homosexuality, many more. So the easier path is the wider path. The harder path is the narrower path. But what I want to say is you don't trade your submission to God with all these good things that seem so good on the outside. Because if you have tasted the submission to God, the joy of submission, you will never want to go through this stolen water effect. You understand what I mean? If you truly know God is real, you will never want to trade off this quick fix of problems, this quick try of pleasure by foregoing the submission you have always been giving Lord all this while. Because if you accept this untruth, you are actually losing the persevering heart at the same time. Okay, and So what I want to say is, in the journey of perseverance, Lord always asks us to reject the untruths through the truth that you listen. If you have been listening a lot of gospel, a lot of truth, then you need to ask yourself, what are you doing with this truth? You need to use this truth to reject the lies of the world, to reject the things that keep coming to you, the subtle hints that cause you to lose the heart to persevere in law. Okay. And lastly, if you, the one who will persevere to the end, will surely live righteously today. In another word, Pastor give the example of the persistent widow. Do you all remember the example of the persistent widow? So there's this widow that keep coming to this justice lah. This judge. So this judge is not a good judge. He is not fair at all, and he is not just at all. He is just a very crappy judge. But there's this poor lady keep coming to him again and again to plead for him to appeal for righteousness. Okay, so initially the judge finds her very irritating and ignore. But because this woman comes to him again and again, so boldly, so courageously, and so without fear, so needing this judge to answer to her, one day the judge finally give in to him. And what is the thing that caused this judge to give in to her? Is it her persistence? Vicky, is it her persistence that makes the judge give in to her? Huh? Yes? What more? So what makes this woman so persistent? On what grounds can you be so persistent? On what grounds you have the right to keep appealing to me again and again, you woman? Probably the judge will say, it could be, Judge, you need to listen to me. This is that. Judge, you have to listen to me. This is that. It means that this woman is so sure of what she's appealing about. That's why she comes to you again and again. If you are so sure of what you're appealing about, how, if even the unfair judge will give in to you, what more is the law? So what is this story trying to tell us is, if we are truly praying according to the will of Lord, if you are truly praying in sync with the will of Lord, how will Lord not fulfill your prayer? But fulfilling your prayer doesn't mean it takes away the current problem, the current situation. The fulfillment of your prayer comes through the satisfaction and the joy in your spirit, knowing Lord will answer in His timing. So what I want to say is, yes, a lot of times we are praying for our family salvation. Is it wrong to pray for our family salvation? No, it's what Lord gave us. Whoever you love will be loved. Whoever you save will be saved. When we love others because of God's word, when we care for others, even though they reject us, do we have grounds to go back to her again, to love her like how you used to be? Yes, you have that grounds, because that's what Lord gave us, the heart of loving others, the heart of loving God and loving others. When you are crushed, when you need to receive strength, is it wrong to ask Lord to give you strength when you are weak? No, because it is the Lord who asks you to come to Him when you are weak. Draw near to me and I'll draw near to you. So what I want to say is, if you are doing the right thing persistently, not compromising on the gospel, not compromising on going for the quick shortcuts and the wider path, how even the unjust judge will give in to the persistent lady. What more is our God, who is ever faithful and ever sovereign? Okay, so therefore you need to ask yourself, when you live righteously, the more Lord asks you to wait, are you more and more disheartened, or are you more and more strengthened? This is something that you ought to confirm yourself. If you are more and more disheartened, is it because are you asking in sync with Lord, or are you living righteously? Living righteously means living in the will of God today. If it's in the will of God for you today to pray for the spouse, you pray for the spouse and you enjoy whatever relationships you have now at this current moment. If you are praying for your health, you just take care of your body according to what Lord gives you. You sleep, you eat, and you exercise healthily. That's all. Actually, Lord doesn't cause us to do a lot, but Lord calls us to do what He calls us to do in our own conditions. And lastly, I pray that I really pray that this message is like a seal to me. It gives us a chalk that, Huizhen, if you know that this is my will, and if you know that there's value in persevering, then today don't feel bitter in the waiting, in the trials, in the sufferings that you are undergoing. You have every reason to rejoice because you don't think that you are bearing it alone. Because Christ is bearing the pain with you. But more important than that, He is accomplishing something more than you can otherwise accomplish on your own, which is maturation of your love, your faith, and your hope, and giving you the courage that you never thought you had. And the courage that does not come from a good external conditions, but from the inner strength, knowing that God is enabling you from the inside. And a lot of times that we thought that perseverance is a path that brings us to success. I'm not saying that if you persevere you won't be successful, but actually perseverance is bringing us into a greater discovery of God's love and His temperament, and developing this temperament in us at the same time. And because why? It is in this journey of perseverance we become more and more God reliant, less and less self-reliant. So actually I realized that this seal that God wants to give us is not to look at ourselves, but to be more and more God reliant. And with the testing of time and stories ahead of you, if you truly pray in sync with God, He will definitely mature your love, mature your faith, and you will know that you are no longer like feeling bitter and bitter as time goes by, but you feel that you are getting more and more encouraged because of His word, because of His enabling power in you. And every perseverance, every trials that He gives us, if He endures the testing of time, it definitely brings us a greater mission, a greater blessings at the back. It is truly because it is through this you can minister to a lot more people. So if you know that there's blessing for us in this perseverance, today you ought to prepare your hearts. Okay, prepare your hearts by not fearing what come ahead, but instead you anticipate what Lord wants to achieve in your life.